Hello and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family. We chose this one. This is episode 284, Hobbs and Shaw, lap 12. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too, and this episode's brought to you by the EPC, the premier and dedicated energy source of America Samoa. Their Fiaga, F-I-A-G-A power plant is a diesel power plant that powers almost 65% of the national power of Samoa. Shout out to the EPC.
Well, shout out to the EPC and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. We are nearing the end of the lap and we are making minor history tonight because with us, again, as always, this entire lap has been Jessica Collins, a.k.a. Montez. Hello, Montez.
Hello, hello.
And this is the history I'm talking about here. So this is the first Fast and Furious movie that was new to you before you watched it this time. Is that correct?
The last one was my first one.
Oh, 8 in this one. So you've seen 9?
I've seen this one. I've seen parts of this one. I haven't seen 9.
Yeah, I remember you saw
am
parts
so
of this
lost.
one. Yeah.
I thought you said you'd seen like none of this, like or like a couple scenes of this or something.
I seen yes, I haven't seen it in its entirety, but I had seen enough to piece it all together.
Okay. Well, before we get there, we need to hit us with that. The thing that everyone loves, from coast to coast,
God damn it.
around the world,
Shit.
all the way from London, England,
Did you forget?
to
Nice.
American Samoa. What is the Montez Minute flavor of the week? Go for it, please. All 8 movies so far.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
1. Brian meets Dom and tries to take him down, but realizes he wants to be a part of Dom's gang. So it's just, the brotherhood. The bromance begins.
Sure.
Okay.
2. Brian recruits his own team with Roman to take down Carter Verone.
Wait, why does it sound like you're reading? It sounded like you were psyched out, and now it sounds like you're reading. I can't get a read on anything going tonight.
I had to find my notes.
Okay.
I have notes. Okay.
Okay.
And then 4, somehow Brian makes it into the FBI, and he tries to make amends with Dom and Mia. Letty's dead.
Okay.
5. My notes start getting a little spotty after this, because this is where I always start to fall off. Reyes is the villain, and this is the Brazilian-Italian job.
Okay.
6, Dom and Elena have bonded over their grief, but Letty is alive, so in the end, Elena lets him go. 3, Tokyo. That's all we need to know. Drifting montage.
No, that's not all we need to know, but all right, that's acceptable, whatever.
7, Letty gets her memory back, Dom almost dies, Brian and Mia quit the family. 8, Dom saves the baby.
Yep.
The end.
I mean...
We got there.
Does Dom save the baby or does Shaw save the baby? That's the real question of the hour.
I mean, Shaw actually, technically, Shaw saved the baby.
Does the physical saving, but I think
Right.
the whole movie's about Dom saving the baby, right?
Yeah. Or Dom trying to save the baby.
Well, I
think
want to
so.
say... I feel like I made a controversial statement last movie that Fate of the Furious, in spite of what people think of it, is the most Dom movie. I think a less controversial statement here is that this is far and away the least Dom movie in the franchise.
I don't know, man.
Wait,
I don't know.
You disagree?
I disagree. There's a lot of Dom moments in this movie.
I think I'm of the mind that they're like, what can we do? Because, okay, so... in terms of character building, they have both Hobbs and Shaw sort of as foils to Dom. So by their very nature, they are not Dom. They are supposed to, compliment him maybe in some way, but also antagonize him, whatever. So they're already different enough from him. And I think here they're just like, nah, we're going to do nothing like Dominic Toretto for almost all this movie.
No, because I think that the real conflict in the movies is that Hobbs and Dom are the same guy. Like, they're just two sides of the same coin. And in this one, you get to see Hobbs be a family man with his daughter. You get to see a little bit of his softer side. You get to see him kind of build a team, bring someone in. You get to see... And in the same sense, Shaw, you get to see his sister and his mom and his loyalty to his family, too. I think you're actually just seeing... two sides, like two different types of Doms. It's the same thing.
Montez, we need you to tie break. Do you think this movie is very Dom or not very Dom? And are Hobbs and Dom the same?
I mean, Hobbs and Dom are the same in the sense that they're starting to get a little ridiculous with the way that their character is advancing here. I don't know that I would say they're not the same. I mean, they have similar qualities.
Which are what?
Gigantic man, bald, family.
I was going to say family. They're dudes.
Hobbs explicitly does not have family. That's the whole point of this movie.
Yes.
No, but does he really not have family?
Because
like he says this outwardly. Okay, and this you're walking me right into my most and least Dom moment. Okay, and that is when Mama Shaw reminds. Yeah.
Mama Shaw. Okay.
When Mama Shaw reminds Dex that no matter what, his sister is his sister.
Wait. Okay.
And he needs to rekindle his family. And you know why it's the most and least Dom moment? Because I can definitely see Dom's character doing that. But in reality, Dom exiled fucking Jacob out of the family for years and pretended like he didn't know who this was. So it is simultaneously the most and least Dom moment of this movie to me.
I think that's a good choice. I also thought you were going to say, you know how I know Hobbs and Dom are the same? Here's this moment that Hobbs does that's the most Dom moment. And then you go the other family and a different character altogether. So, like, I thought you were going to defend your crazy statement, and instead you just, like, turned the corner.
Well, no, that was me walking into it, because, and then you have Hobbs hold on.
Hold on. You can't just name all your most Dom moments here.
No, this isn't another Dom moment. This is just explaining what you were just saying. Is then you get the flip side of Hobbs being like, I have no family, we have no family, we have no family, and then shows up, there's a giant-ass family, they welcome him and fight together at the end, and, like, they're all happy.
Well, no, he knows he has a family.
I know, but, like,
to not talk to them.
But when it comes down to, like, you were just talking, Montez was just describing Fate, right? Where, like, Dom flips on the family. He's not talking to the family and flips on them then.
Montez's description of Fate was Dom saves the baby.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that. Well, like, Dom flips on the family and, like, doesn't talk to them because he's saving the baby. And that's, like, the same thing of, like, oh, I'm not talking to my family, like, and now I need them and they welcome me back and we're buds again. I think this is, again, just, like, they're, like, weird inverse mirror images of each other. You know what I mean? They're, like, they're all kind of similar.
That's how the characters are drawn. I'm saying that they are not at all similar. I think that if Hobbs was Dom, this movie wouldn't exist. If Hobbs were Dom, they would never have to go to Samoa. They would already be, like, in Samoa, or the Samoan family would be with Hobbs. I feel like the separation of church
and that's what I said. That Dom exiled Jacob for fucking 20 years. We didn't know what Jacob was and who he was. So, like, is Dom really the ultimate family man? Because he kicked his own brother out of his family.
Yeah, I guess that's revisionist history of Dom, not on your part, on the movie's part.
Yes.
Because I was going to say the most Dom moment, the only Dom moment that I wrote down in the movie is when they show up to Samoa and Mama Hobbs says...
I like this too. This was my second one. Go ahead.
Get in here. No questions. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
The past is the past. You're here now. That's all that matters. I'm like, yeah, that's family.
She was my second choice for most Dom moment.
I will say, though, I think the only... Unless Montez has another idea, I think the only Dom characters really are the moms, which I think Dom as Pac mom, Den mom. But Montez, what is your most Dom moment?
I had the same thing.
Which one?
Hobbs' mom.
Yeah.
Mama
Hobbs.
Mama Hobbs.
I have a little bit of a twist for you guys.
Ooh.
I have the most Vin moment of this movie.
Okay. Well, this is I think by far the nerdiest movie, which seems wild because it's basically like a 90s movie with two like muscly dudes, but I feel like all the like nerd references are very Vin. But is it Vin or is it Mark Sinclair or is it a little bit of both?
It's Vin.
Okay. What's the most Vin moment?
Everybody beating the shit out of The Rock.
Oh, okay.
I let you go too because you were thinking it was going to be something kind of profound. and it was not. It was just everybody just fighting The Rock all the time. So like Idris, even Hattie. I think that in Vin's mind, this is probably one of the best Fast and the Furious movies because The Rock's just getting the shit kicked out of him the whole time.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Montez, what do you think of Hobbs and Shaw?
The fact that Idris Elba's a freaking cyborg, I can't. I don't know. I don't know
like
how.
it?
I don't know how this fits in. They're human transformers now. Like I don't know.
He's
like,
an enhanced human.
What kind of universe is this? Like, he's the first enhanced human we've seen, but they all, according to Hobbs, they continuously save the world. Like, that's his job, is to save the world. Like, you're not a superhero, dude. I had a really hard time with this one.
Wait, I know you probably just said it, but can you re-clarify how much of this movie you had seen before?
I would say that I saw maybe like 40% before.
Okay. Was the part that you've seen, like, did you know that Idris Elba was like a superhero before
Yes.
or no? Okay,
Yes.
You did. Okay. I think this time watching this, this has become my least favorite Fast and Furious movie.
Wow. Okay. Tanked.
The
bottom of the list.
It's been slipping every single time, but yes, it's at the bottom now, I think, because every lap that we get through this, and I think I say this the last couple laps, like every time that we have another lap go by where there's no spin-offs, this means less to me. Like, I would be
That's
okay.
fair.
Like, I don't need a Hobbs and Shaw 2, but if there's like 4 or 5 standalone stories that like have similar kind of things where it's like, oh, there's like superhumans over here, and there's like this crazy shit over here, and there's like these people doing this over here. Like, if we like filled out the world with different stories, I don't need to keep going back, but I want to know that there's more going on. The fact that the other 10 movies going to be very soon are all taking place in this sort of, globe spanning but sort of tightly contained circle of people, and then there's just this, it's like, what does this do?
Joey, you walked again right into my trap, bud. Because as I was watching this movie, all I could think of was the scene from the Fast X trailer of the Letty Charlize brain swap, face-off moment. Every time I'm like looking at Etion, I'm like, can this lab that we see them in the trailer exist in Etion? Is it the same thing? And there's a shot where they like decommission Idris near the end, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it looks so much like the same like woman in lab coat sitting at a computer and like a big screen behind them, to where I was like, that very much well could be Etion. And
so
this
you think after all of this, where Vin and The Rock hate each other openly, basically, they're going to be like, hey, this big moment? We're going to loop back in Hobbs and Shaw, the one movie that Vin was not in.
I think possibly.
Not the one movie, but you know what I mean? Like the one recent movie that Vin was not in.
I think that there was like an overarching like big bad evil corp umbrella corporation situation happening that even if Vin didn't really like work on Hobbs and Shaw, that they had to kind of clear the creative stuff with him for it to not like blow up Fast and Furious, right? And we've seen now that we're like watching through the Vin lap that he pretty much just steals all the good ideas from his other movies and is like, okay, like, or like, this was cool in Fast and Furious, like, let's do this in Triple X, or like this.
Vin is like a producer, but he doesn't own anything. I don't think they need to run anything by him on things he's not involved with.
But he's involved in the creative process, right?
Not for this one. I don't think he's at all touched this.
Understandable. I don't think that he like actively, but like I think at the end it has to be like you can't do some like they have to sit down and talk about the script to the point where it's like this can't ruin the main franchise.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think
you think it's completely disconnected.
I think so. From him, I think that when this came out, we talked about the sort of the bisection of where things went, that like Chris Morgan went here, the other people went there, Justin Lin stayed with the main one, obviously no longer there, but like I think that there is a real split here, and I think that if the idea was to make one of these a year, There was no way that like Vin was going to be involved with all of them. I think they're just like, hey,
No.
Universal's not going to like as a studio is not going to let you like tank the main franchise with like one of these. But like, I don't think Vin had any say. I mean, maybe unofficially, but I don't think.
Unofficially,
I don't
like,
think
they had to like
things by him.
No, I think that they like not like every step of the way, but like near the end of the script, they have to be like because we heard from Leterrier that like we heard before this that Vin was like, oh, he comes up with like the set pieces and pretty much tells people like, this is what I'm seeing in my head, make it happen, right?
Yeah, for his movie though, not for just like the movies in the franchise.
What do you mean by his movie?
The ones he's
Like-
in. Like, I think the ones that he's a producer on, because he's a producer on F9, he's a producer on Fate, he's a producer on 7 and 6 and 5, and Los Bandoleros and 4. But he was not before that. I think he started taking ownership when like it became a thing, but I don't know. Montez, you have a guess? Because I mean, I think the other thing is like, because there's only one of these, we don't know. Like, he might have been very involved that we just didn't know. But I think if he was involved, we would have known. I also think that this coming out around the time when like there was like that open feud, I think that we would have known that too. I don't think he's really that involved.
This also doesn't feel like any of the other Fast and Furious movies, so I feel like he is not involved in the sense that it just has a completely different feel. This is like if there were 2 writers on a book series and one of them decided to write a novella and try and introduce it into the canon.
Yeah, see, I'm not thinking that he's like an integral part of the creative process, but I do think that like when they like are like, okay, the script is like nearly finished, Vin takes a look at it and is like either like I can use parts of this in the main franchise to like loop it back in, or like please don't do the world's longest runway, for example, because like we were gonna do that in 10. Like they have to kind of co-talk, right? Like
I don't know. I mean, I don't
get what I'm saying. It's not like
maybe he's in one meeting at one point, but
that's what I'm saying.
But yeah, but I don't think he's like. I don't think they're like, hey, can we do this, Mr. Diesel? Like,
no, that's what I'm saying. I don't think so
I think if
either.
he was involved, we wouldn't have had quotes last summer or whatever where The Rock was like, yeah, I want to do one more and really end this story. It's just like, well, I don't think that Vin would want to end. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like.
But I don't think The Rock is involved in this level of planning, is what I'm saying. Like, The Rock comes in, like, when the script is done, and, like, he can be like, oh, I think my character would say something else and, like, make little changes. But, like, in the, like, grand scheming, like, script building part of this, I think that Vin was involved at some point. Maybe not, like, a major role, but enough to be like, hey, we were thinking about doing this in 10. What do you think about this? Type situations that, like, we could maybe build off that. Oh, that's a cool story. I like that. Go for it. Like, we were definitely not going to do that. Interesting. Cool. Like, because there's ultimately, like, and Vin wants The Rock back. So he does want to know, like, what the character's doing in case we've established that he's like, come on, make amends, like, come back to the main franchise. So he would, I mean, as much as they don't really care what happened in previous movies, he would kind of want it to continue and flow, right?
I honestly don't know. I think that's a real question. I think that he would. I think part of him wants it to flow. I think part of him wants. I want this movie that they basically chose to not include my character. I want this to flop. Like, I don't think he's going to ever openly say that, but I think that he would be like, they don't want me. I hope this doesn't succeed. I hope this fails.
Do you think Vin made any royalties off of Hobbs and Shaw?
I don't think so. He has no ownership. He's not a producer. He's not putting money in.
Like, you don't think he has like some backside deal with Universal that he gets like a tiny cut of all Fast and Furious stuffs?
I mean, I don't know why they would do that.
That's a good point. Like, business-wise, they'd just be like, fuck you, we just pay you, and, like, we make all the money, duh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Montez, who gets the fuck in this movie? Pretty obvious, pretty in-your-face about it.
I don't even remember.
Oh. It's Hobbs and Shaw. They both get it.
Fuck.
No fucking way.
Yeah, that. Sorry, yeah, that was fucking way, yeah.
Oh, yes, now that you say that, yes. Now I remember.
Where they're like, I'm not going to work with him.
Yeah.
We also got at least one person to write in. I think it was Nick Burris who wrote in about in Too Fast. Roman apparently mumbles it under his breath when he's at the Demolition Derby and he sees Brian. So like we didn't know who got it in that one, but you know.
Yes.
There's
that kind of makes sense.
So Montez, your love column, your hate column, your other thoughts column, your most Dom moment column. We've already covered the one. Hit us with your ideas. What you got going on for Hobbs and & Shaw?
You're not going to believe this. I didn't take any notes.
What?
No.
I didn't take any notes. I was going to wing it this time.
Oh man. Okay, so what did you
Montez?
love about this movie?
How big is the note taking in your brain? How big is the handwriting in your head?
Well, you've seen how large that I read my books at sometimes, so it's pretty large.
Okay.
I really love Jason Statham and Helen Mirren in this movie. Like, if I could just have a movie about the Shaw family,
Which this kind of is.
but like forget Hobbs. Like, I don't want Hobbs at all. Like, if it's
Okay.
just them, that's a movie I want to watch.
Now, would that movie be also 2 hours and 17 minutes, or would it be like an hour and 5 minutes, but just them?
It'd probably be like an hour and a half, maybe
Okay.
hour 20. You know, I don't feel like it needs to be. This movie did not need to be 2 hours long. I mean, it was fine. I didn't love it. I definitely hated the cyborg portion of it just because my brain can't
Why?
having. I don't know. My brain just can't function on the fact that we haven't seen that yet. Like, not in your face about it. Like, I mean, Idris Elba's back was completely open. My brain is just not, for some reason, just not like categorizing the fact that I don't know. This just doesn't feel like it's a. It's not like a movie, Like,
No, it's not.
I think it's firmly a movie.
No, but like there's not.
it really doesn't feel like it's part of the. I mean, like, it really doesn't feel like it's part of the franchise. I feel
That's
like this
fair.
is just. It's just it's like a hey, here's what Hobbs and Shaw were doing in the interim while we're waiting on the next movie to come out.
Because I think what's weird about this movie is that it feels, and this came out pre-pandemic, but it feels like it wasn't like finished.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have an ending. It like there's a scene and they just zoom out and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
There are so many scenes where a character just kind of awkwardly like looks around. It's like, why is that here? Like it's that the character or the actor, but probably the character doesn't know if they should be there or not. Like there's just like all these things where like the editing is just so weird. Like it seems like intentional, but it just feels like I don't know why this is happening. And I don't know, like I think that there's a story here and I think it could probably be honed down and I think that there's like a fun sort of standalone thing. Like my real only issue is that there's not more of this. If there's just the one, I think that's sort of frustrating. But like I think that the actual work product here is like kind of messy and incomplete in a way that like you get glossed over by the shine and the veneer of this and like the charm of the two lead actors and Vanessa Kirby's all around wonder. But like, I think it's just like, oh, this doesn't feel like this almost feels like a 90s movie in like a, hey, like, let's just make things explode and people are going to go like it.
You know what this felt like to me? This felt
What's that?
like this is The Rock's movie. Kevin Hart's there. It's
Yeah.
a lot of jokes between him and, because The Rock is good at his dry humor. It felt like this was his movie, and this is, he's got his friends in there. Ryan Reynolds is there. It just felt like a movie where they were trying to bring up the franchise to be like less serious.
I think that you're right, but I think that it really was The Rock trying to find a franchise footing. And they gave him more leeway here and tried to expand so that you could have essentially two Fast and the Furious franchises where Dom is the head of one and Hobbs is the head of the other, and then starts building his team of like Statham, and you're right, Ryan Reynolds, Kevin Hart, and then you have like the comedic version and you have like the quote unquote serious version with Vin in the other side.
I think that like there was a time where we were kind of building toward like two families clashing, right? And like I think
Yes.
that's what this could have been. And then pandemic, this movie kind of flopping,
The
Vin
fight.
and Rock, fighting. Like it just that didn't go anywhere. And I think that like I don't know if that like would have been super satisfying. I guess it depends on like how Cypher would have been involved, what Etion would have been, so on and so forth. But like it could have been something really cool.
That might have been the intentionality of it. And this is why I think that Vin might have been involved in the creative process, because like that could have been how it started out. And then, like all the other stuff that you just mentioned happened, and like now we have a one-off Hobbs and Shaw movie.
Mm-hmm. Montez, freewheel us with some more thoughts.
I did enjoy the action scenes, so
Okay.
I did enjoy that part of it. So as an action,
Which ones? Which ones? What were your
all of
favorite?
all of them. I didn't
All of the
necessarily.
above.
I didn't necessarily have a favorite. I mean, I did think it was cool when Idris goes underneath the what was it? Was it an 18-wheeler?
Mm-hmm. With his crazy motorcycle that like can sort of transform.
Yeah, I was like really paying attention to that part this time too, because I was like, what is the structural integrity of
Yeah.
a motorcycle that can like half unbend and then like reassemble and also still be drivable? It's like, I wonder what that is like. That's just like an interesting concept to have.
Yeah.
I mean, they're literally making people superhuman. I think that they also probably have the technology to make cars supercars.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like just like the geometry of like something being able to fold in
Right.
half one way and then not like and then pass road tests for crashes and stuff when it reassembles. I was like, that's very interesting. And like, what are the hinges and stuff like in this motorcycle for it to just be able to fold and unfold like that? Bizarre stuff.
Yeah.
I kind of disliked Hattie having the virus in her palm. I thought that was kind of silly.
But you get all those great shots of her just like putting her palm up, like in her face out of focus, and you just see the palm, but you know
Yes.
she's behind it.
Yeah, listen, I just want to see her face.
Yeah,
Don't just stop blurring her face out.
that's fair.
I love Vanessa Kirby. Whatever, just put her on the screen. That's what
She's a
I
babe.
want to look at.
For sure.
Did you like her as a character?
I thought her character was okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't dislike her character. I wish that we could have learned more about her. But again, this is me wanting a complete Shaw family movie franchise.
I have a question for you, Montez. Would you want to see Hattie in 10 with limited screen time, or would you prefer that she's left out of 10 but given a predominant role in like the Letty spinoff?
I feel like I would like to see her in 10, but again, this is assuming that it's all gonna come back together at some point. Because I mean, so after this movie,
What if it doesn't and it's just like, but we get Hattie?
okay, sure,
I think what like the crazy thing about that, I don't know if we talked about this before or not, but like they would have to assume that people didn't see this movie. Like I think that
Yeah.
watching
this is the Cars 2 of the franchise.
no, like this is like a standalone direct.
No, it's like Mater goes
short,
to Tokyo.
yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, Mater in Tokyo or whatever the fuck that short
Yep.
was that we watched. Yeah,
Yep.
it's more like that, not even an actual installment, right?
Yeah,
Even though we talked about this before, for sure, every time they put out a movie, like the 9th movie in the series, the 10th movie in the series, whatever, like you have to assume it's somebody's first movie. I think for the most part, they can kind of assume that if you're seeing Fast X, you're at least familiar with the core characters. If all of a sudden Vanessa Kirby shows up and just like, hey guys, like they'd have to do almost as much introduction of her as they would for like Brie Larson, whoever Brie Larson actually is, because it's just like, oh well, we don't know actually if people saw Hobbs and Shaw, and like Shaw's not really been around. He wasn't in the last movie, and like who is she, and like how does she fit in, like what's her role, and like it'd be weird. Like it would almost
It would
be
be
more
weird.
trouble than it's worth, because like they just haven't done a good job incorporating. It's like I want her more than anybody else in these movies because I think she's great and I like the character, but like it almost feels like it's easier not to, which is a bummer.
Yeah, you make a very good point, and I think that you're probably right that like you'd have to kind of come in and reestablish Hattie, and like if we have Momoa and Brie Larson and I forget the other one's name. I always forget her name.
Daniela Melchior, do you mean?
Yeah, Daniela Melchior. If we have like a bunch of new characters, like throwing Hattie back in here when she wasn't in the last one and like was in this one-off one would be like, and you can't have her and then not. Well, we get Statham.
Yeah, but he already existed. You know, like he was already
Yes,
in, like
he,
he
like,
was the
existed.
main villain in 7, and he was also played part of here. He came into the team in 8.
6, yeah.
Well, no, he was only in the credits in 6. He wasn't really in
I know,
6.
but I mean, like, he like has a history. He's established.
Right. Yeah. So like that's why they're able to carry him over, and like and Mama Shaw has been in there, like Helen Mirren, Dean Helen Mirren, Queenie's been in there.
She's definitely gonna come back. Yeah, she's in there.
Speaking of character names, I would have guaranteed you the wrong name that Eiza Gonzalez's character in here. Like I know she's Madam M. I thought her name was a different name, and I've seen this movie now at least 11 times.
What?
Do you know her name? Do you know her real name?
It's gonna be like something really dumb. Okay, no, what?
Montez, do you know Eiza Gonzalez's character name in this movie?
Only because I'm looking at the list of names. So I'm not going to...
says it twice. I thought it was like Magdalena or something. It's Margarita.
Margarita. Fuck, that's right. It's really
so
stupid.
Like she's credited on Letterboxd as Madam M. I'm not sure, is she on IMDb as Magdalena or Madam M?
I wish that her real name is like Margarita Terramana.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, on IMDb she's Madam M too. But Margarita, I was just like, huh. Yeah, Margarita Aviation Gin Terramana.
Yeah. On Wikipedia it says Margarita and then / Madam M.
That's a weird name. That's like that feels like a cop-out choice, but also kind of leans into like the cheesy fucking action movie that they made.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I like her character a lot. I think she is very cool and kick-ass and beautiful, and just I like seeing her in movies. I like that she kind of has this small part. Like she's got her own kind of world. Like this almost feels like Joe, I don't know if you've seen any of these movies. I think, Montez, you have. Like, the John Wick world, it feels like she's just, like, a high-profile assassin that, like, would be at the Continental, like, the hotel where he hangs out. And, like, she's got this entirely defined backstory that we don't need to know. Like, we could explore in a Madam M spin-off movie, whatever. Margarita on the Rocks. But, like, we don't need to explore it in a way that, like, this movie's like, hey, don't you want to know about, like, their backstories? It's like, well, not really. I kind of wanted to see them, like, drive cars.
Yeah.
What? No, I want to know about Madame M's backstory.
I'd rather have like a good action. Well, I don't know. I want both sides of it. I'm asking too much of these movies, maybe.
Yeah, just let it be fun, man. This is a fun movie. Just let it be.
So you still love this movie?
I find it enjoyable. I mean, like, I don't think it holds up, and like, we definitely killed ourselves watching it 50 times, the same way that we did with Fast 9, the Fast Saga, the saga continues. There's like lots of really, really fun elements to it, and the addition, like making it more comedic and not have the comedy have to come from just Roman, I think works well. So like I respect that a lot. Like you could add Kevin Hart and Ryan Reynolds to the main franchise for like the comic relief to me, and I would find it greatly enjoyable. Because, like, what did we get? Like, we, like, laughed, like, I think, like, Earl and Twinkie and Sean kind of played comedic relief.
Well, plus, like, the main movies also have Roman, right? Like, Roman
That's what I'm saying.
fills
Roman
that role already, yeah.
But, like, if you swapped out Roman with Kevin Hart, and I like Roman, I think that it would work okay, too. Like, so. Yeah,
all right, here's my thought.
What?
If this movie was not part of the Fast and Furious franchise at all, I think I would probably like it more.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Because
it's not trying to tie it into a universe that already exists.
But would like The Rock and Jason Statham be like Hobbs and Shaw, or would they be like just random action dudes?
They could just be. It could be the same exact movie with just not
their names.
A connection. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think you're the first person to say that, Montez. I think that's sort of a fairly common sentiment, because I think it's like, as a movie, fun. Maybe forgettable, fun. As a Fast and Furious movie, like you said, doesn't really feel like one. And like I said, the fact that they're not interconnecting or trying to is disappointing.
Yep.
This isn't like any worse off than like Central Intelligence or whatever, right? And that's just The Rock and Kevin Hart.
I think it's probably a better movie. I haven't seen it since theaters, though. But I think that was well, maybe not. I don't know.
That's why,
what I'm saying.
It's not better.
I don't know if we've said this on air enough. Like, I'm hesitant to do a lap of The Rock movies, because I think he's great at this kind of thing, where it's like,
but he
makes a movie that's fun, and then you leave the theater, you're like, all right, now what do we do?
But I also think that like he's on a run there where we would have like the same kind of Vin situation where you'd be like, oh, so this is just that version of.
I think the actor themes they're tough. I think the theme, like the broader whatever like we've done in the past with like car movies, classic car movies or whatever.
No, but we even hit like, dude, the Michelle Rodriguez one, like she's kind of all over the place. Like she doesn't just play like just, I mean, like, you know, she plays a badass in a lot of them, but it's not like Letty over and over and over again, right?
It's kind of Letty all over and over and over again.
I guess.
But I think the Letty one, I think that lap that we did it, didn't we? That was during the pandemic, and we were doing like 2 episodes a week, so we were like we were cutting in way other movies, so it didn't feel as
maybe.
like we were doing like that was the memory loss lap. So we were doing like all sorts of crazy movies like Nemo
like
and Spellbound and Seconds and Memento, yeah, like all those things, right? And so like it didn't feel as like because Vin movies are
now,
very similar to Fast and Furious movies.
Yes. Okay.
Michelle Rodriguez movies are pretty similar in large part to Fast and Furious movies, except for the one where she's a teacher.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. She's like a teacher in one. Wasn't there like a romantic comedy one? I don't remember.
I think that's the same one. But I mean, like even when Vin plays babysitter, it's a Fast and Furious movie to a certain extent, right? Like
it's yes, yeah, because he's still like Navy SEAL fighter guy, you know.
And so you know, aside from the like crazy Patreon bonus episodes that we're doing, and also speaking of that, shout out to Cassie Wilson, Ben Milliman, Nick Burris, Alex Ellen, and Justin Kleinman, Brian Rodriguez of High School Slumber Party, Wes Hampton, Jerry Robinson, Dan the Duke, Hayden, Renato DiDonato, Michael McGann, Lane Middleton, Lindsay Lewandowski, Nate Milton of the Kings of Sports, Jason Rainey, Tom Price, Mike Gallier, Josh Buckley of Whole Lot of Wolves, Michael Moser, and someone with us tonight, Jessica Collins, a.k.a. Montez. Thank you all for supporting us at the $5 a month level or above. Like, all these movies that these guys are picking that we're doing, like, that's what's breaking this up. But imagine if we were only doing Fast and Furious Vin Diesel movie. It would be the same, to a certain extent, movie 20 times in a row. We'd be like, we get it.
Yeah, because we've been through Triple X, Riddick.
Yes.
Like, they're definitely recurring themes throughout these for sure.
Like you're just like you put it in a snow globe and you roll the d20. You're like, okay, we're on Mars now. It's like, okay,
yeah, but he loves family.
Mm-hmm.
There's large religious themes in the background of this movie.
By the way, Mark Hoffmeyer is working on a thing right now that he will be on the show to plug when it's done. But he has noticed in watching a bunch of Vin Diesel movies, he's like, Vin really borrows from other stuff for the Fast and Furious. I'm like, we've been saying that all lap long. Like he's taking like scenes and shots and like action things and just like borrowing weaponry, and dropping it in.
Yeah, like weapon.
Him hanging like even Mark even mentioned to me what you pointed out, like him in in Riddick.
He
hanging from like the chains or whatever.
He loves having his wrists bound to a pipe above him. Like there's something about that pose that Vin Diesel's like, I need to look like that in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Every movie he does it like so many times because we saw it. Like I didn't catch it till like the third franchise that it was in, and I was like, oh god, he's doing this again.
Yep.
Cool. I'm glad that Mark caught it too because he has a good eye for stuff like that. So thumbs up.
I will say, while we're on the topic of me saying like all these movies are the same, I do like the glass half full of me not liking this one as much is that it makes me like Too Fast and 4 and 8, my other previously like lower ones, more. Like I'm just like, I'd rather watch 2 than this. I'd much rather watch 4 than this. I'd rather watch 8 than this, right? Like they're all movies that I'm like, they feel more, even though 2 is like really standalone, like it's at least the characters that we know and it leads to a thing, right?
Yes. And it ties into the main story. It does. Like, because you're right. This has no ties to the main story as of now.
Yep.
Like, we're speculating. I was speculating and hoping and wishing while I was watching it this time, keeping an eye out, but it's not, like, as of right now.
I will also shout out Mike's podcast, Third Time's a Charm, where he had Kyle and Brian on to talk about Quantumania. And when I went on Out Now with Aaron and Abe, we were all sort of like being like, this is not a good movie. There's nothing here. We're disappointed. We're fearful for the future of the MCU. And Mike said, with his bird's eye view, he's like, everybody trashed Iron Man 2, and then now you watch Iron Man 2, it's like, oh, that leads to the Avengers. Like, that leads to a thing that, like, in the moment, you can't really notice, you can't whatever. But the same thing with Ant-Man.
This is what we said, like, Fate. Yeah, we've been saying this about Fate forever, right?
Well, I'm just saying, like, yeah, well, the Fate, yes, but also, like, 2, it's just, like, 2, like, at the time, you're like, I don't know, like, what is, like, where's Vin Diesel? Like, where's everybody? Like, why is it only this one character? And then later, you're like, oh, that gave us Roman, that gave us Tesh, that gave us Miami, gave us all this, you know, whatever. And so, I think seeing where they go, and that's the thing, I think that's my ultimate point here, too, not to beat a dead horse, but it's like, the farther we get from this, and they don't even mention this. They're not even like, oh, Etion. Like, oh, we can't do Etion. Like, they didn't even do like the Brian thing, or just like, oh, like we can't bother Brian. It's like, oh, we can't ask Etion. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There are literal superhumans running around the world, and they're just like, well, that doesn't exist.
I mean, they've never shied away from doing that, right? Though.
Montez, other thoughts in your brain about this movie?
I got no other thoughts. It just feels like a lot of other movies that had come out what feels like around the same time. So, all of the Ryan Reynolds movies that had come out during that time. The Hitman's Bodyguard's Wife, Six Underground, like,
Red Notice.
You mentioned, yeah.
Do you think the cultural references, the many Game of Thrones jokes, the Harry Potter reference, all these different things that sort of firmly place it in like 2019 to a certain extent. Do you think that that's funny? Did you groan at that? Do you think that holds up? Does that annoy you? Does that bother you, like in general or in this movie in particular?
Did you not care?
I felt like it was a bit much and trying a little too hard. Like, it got to be a little too much, because I think I've listened to this podcast enough to hear you guys say in the past that a lot of these references aren't going to make any sense. Like, they're cultural references that were relevant during that time. Like, you watch an 80s movie or, Ready Player One, like, a lot of that stuff is continuously relevant and people know what you're talking about, but not everyone watched Game of Thrones, right? Like, not everyone has seen Harry Potter.
It seemed really big at the time, but I think you're right. Like, there's like still a lot of people coming up that are like, oh no, like, I haven't watched Game of Thrones, and it wasn't as ingrained in the culture as like people that haven't seen Star Wars still know like a bunch of Star Wars references, right?
Well, we get ready for F9 for that, right?
What?
You're Yoda. I'm Luke freaking Skywalker.
Oh yeah. I forgot all the Star Wars. Yeah, but I mean, like culturally, like the SNLification of something.
Well, I think that's what's weird is that the Game of Thrones was like in the zeitgeist, but like I think they only probably average like 10 or 15 million people an episode, which is still like a ton. Like, I think that's like a wild number, but like, hundreds of millions of people have seen Avatar, right? Like,
yes,
Avatar 2,
that's what I'm saying.
It's like,
yes.
There are things that like, and like people aren't making Avatar references. Like, there's the things that, I don't know.
Even like the fucking, the alien fish sex movie that Guillermo del Toro did. What was that? Shape of Water.
Shape of Water.
Okay. Yeah. Like, even that's like, you say Shape of
Academy
Water,
Award
it's like
winner for Best Picture.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, the fucking fish having sex, like, thing, and you're like, yeah, like even if you didn't see the movie, like, you'd be like, oh yeah, I heard some fish fucks in that movie. Like, Game of Thrones, like, they can make references, but like, I don't think that enough people that haven't seen it will get the reference type situation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like, nothing Jon Snow is, if you've seen the show, you're like, I get it, but it's also like, what?
Yeah.
Hey, Montez, are you more of a Hobbs or a Shaw?
I hope I'm more of a Shaw.
Okay. I think that's kind of overwhelmingly, like, 70% of the people who have responded to this are Shaws. Me and Joe have both said Shaw. Like, it's tough to be
Unless
Hobbs.
You're like a lame dad, then yeah, you'd want to be.
Whoa.
Oh.
No, because I mean, ultimately, I think Hobbs is just a lame dad.
You're not wrong. He's too obsessed with his work, right?
Yeah, he's like a kind of shitty, lame dad.
He's raising a child who has no other family. He's literally raising a villain.
Yeah, pretty much, right? He just like leaves her with the neighbor, essentially. I'm still confused by this. We don't have a family. I called your aunt. She's coming over. Like, we talked about this. It's probably like, oh, like, that's
family,
his,
yeah,
like
aunt, like neighbor aunt, yeah.
Neighbor, aunt, good friend, something like that. But it still feels weird. Like, you're like, she's like, oh, look, my family tree is dead. And he's like, yeah, it is. And then also is like, your aunt's coming over, and you're like, okay.
I do want to shout out, this is a movie that I know that Mark Hoffmeyer loves, and he sort of advocated, and I finally saw late last year, maybe early this year. I don't remember when I saw it, but it came out last year. It's this movie called Marina, Murina, and one of the stars is Cliff Curtis, who plays Jonah, and it's great. there's this family of three, and like they're trying to sell this land to this guy, and he's kind of the middleman, like he's the friend and whatever, and it's like such an opposite role from Jonah that I'm like, is that Jonah? Like, is that the same guy? I'm like, yeah, he's great. So shout out to Cliff Curtis. I don't think I've seen him in anything else of note before
I've
Hobbs
never
and
seen
Shaw.
him. Yeah.
And he's just like kind of this like handsome, suave like dude who like, I don't know. It's hard to describe this movie without kind of giving things away. Not that you can really spoil it, but like Marina's really good. It's a foreign language. I don't remember what language it's in, but I was kind of more interested in his character here, and he's just kind of like a little grumpy. He's just like, I don't want to talk to you.
I really liked all the auxiliary characters in it. I think that makes this movie kind of enjoyable to me too. Like I had already said, like I like Kevin Hart and stuff, but I like all the Samoans too.
All the Usos, yeah.
Yeah, all the Usos are great. Like I like Roman Reigns. We both said we all said we really liked Mama Hobbs, right? Like she's a great character.
Yep.
The moms are great characters. So like everything that's surrounding it, I think that, and because we're starting kind of anew, it's tighter. Like there is a lot of characters, which is very Fast and Furious, sure, but it's still less characters than we get when we get to like 45 in the Fast and Furious. Is like,
well, I think they're not main characters. I think this movie
They're
does a
not,
good
you're
job
right.
of saying these are characters who are filling out the world. You don't need to know their full story. Like Madam M, it's just like, hey,
Yes,
like,
she's
but then all of a
badass.
sudden, it's like, Hobbs and Shaw too. It's like, all right, it's Hobbs and Shaw and Hattie and Madam M. It's like, all right, and then like Hobbs and Shaw 3, it's like, and also Dinkley's there. It's like, well, okay, like we're just like keep adding like, and then they need like 20 minutes in the movie that's just theirs, right? Like the fact that like you have
Yes.
like 4 or 5 minutes of these characters and they're the star of the scene, and then they go away. They do a thing and they go away. Like that's how movies should work.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I kind of feel like that too.
So
I think you can kind of that nails what I was.
like there are things about this that I love. I still think it's a perfect movie, 10 out of 10. But
Yes.
I just think compared to the other ones, I'd much rather watch any other Fast and Furious movie. And I think that like there's definitely been a sentiment among listeners and people who've been on here that like they don't like this movie very much. They don't like 9. Seemingly the 9 backlash sort of surprises me, but like I think people maybe get antsy. And I think what you mentioned before, what we talked about a lot, I hope that as these movies go on, we reflect back and be like, that's what they were doing. I like that now. I like that more now.
Yeah, I got to. Oh man, I'm really. Do you have like a thought on whether Etion is the place that they're face swapping in? Did you catch that this time? Were you paying attention to it? Did you think about it? Do you think about it
I did
now?
not.
Both of
I did not.
you. How do you feel about that? Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? Like, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, we said it when we saw the trailer.
I'm trying to figure out if I'd be more surprised if it was Etion or wasn't Etion.
That's what I'm wondering too. That's kind of what I'm getting to. Yeah. Like when they're like, "Oh, they're in Etion," you'd be like, "Oh man, yeah, of course it was." And if they're like, "We're in, Westion," you'd be like, "What is this?"
Did you say Westeros? No, man. They talk about Westeros in Etion. But they talk about...
Yeah, they talk about Southaros in Westeron.
Do you have any other thoughts about any other notes about Hobbs and Shaw?
No, I think I kind of got through all of my like again, I'm just gearing up for 10, so like I'm over like now I'm just in full like looking for kind of connections mode. I don't know if I didn't gain any like more like for this movie, but I don't like it any less on the rewatch. Like I think it's just like it kind of just stayed somewhere in the middle bottomish for me, so I'm
I
fine
think
with it.
this is an impossible question to ask, and I think that you sort of shrugged it off last time, but
What?
if we were playing the game Where's Dante, where is Jason Momoa's character in this movie? That, again, we don't know where Vin is, like, we don't know where Dom is, we don't know where anybody is, but, like, where would Dante be? Would he be at all involved in the elements in the story of Hobbs and Shaw?
I think that there's a possibility that Dante was like a security guard at Etion. Like he went through like the training program, like he wasn't high up, but just to like, get his foot in the door of evil. He like joined Etion for a little bit and did like, like an internship there or something.
Okay. Montez, what do you think Momoa is?
I have zero thoughts. I've tried to forget about the trailer since I have no idea what's happening since I haven't
Right,
seen
fair.
since I haven't seen 9. So I've kind of just tried to block it out.
I think partly because he played Aquaman and partly because I've been playing so much Hades and you're talking to all these gods, and like Poseidon's there, I just think of him now even more so as Aquaman. I feel like he's just like swimming around Samoa somewhere, like he's just like in the waters around.
He's just
Samoa.
in the water. He just I can see him just getting out of the water in slow motion at all times.
Yeah,
Just like hair flip, like spray of water, and he was just like surf like he just like lives underwater, but like he has to like walk out like 30 times a day.
I think he probably did that in Zack Snyder's Justice League, but like I want the Ramsey, like, oh, I call dibs, but I want like 3 women talking about him in Fast X. Like I want his backstory, which is like him slow motion walking out of water, right? Would be good.
Yeah,
Not even women, because he's a peacock, right? But just like 3 people, any gender, any sex, I don't care. Just people lusting after Aquaman swimming around Samoa.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I don't. Do you think that he would get that many looks in Samoa? I mean, like Jason Momoa is obviously a gorgeous dude, but like if you had The Rock and Statham and like Roman Reigns all there, like Momoa is like, I guess.
I think he's a better looking dude than any of them. Montez, who are you most attracted to of all those big muscly dudes?
None of them, because I'm not into big muscly dudes.
If you had to pick
Oh,
one, Montez,
man.
play along.
Oh God. It would not be Jason Momoa.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he looks kind of caveman-y, so that's what like.
I think people are into that.
No, I get it. That's fine. I'm just saying, like, is he like top tier dude? I don't know. I look at dudes. I'm like, he's probably pretty handsome.
I mean, I
but, like,
think you're also like injecting, which I haven't seen, but like you're injecting like his character probably in C, right? Which is like he's
no,
wilderness.
no. I think his face. He like has like a primitive face.
No, I see that.
You know what I'm saying? Like he has like
Yeah.
the caveman like accentuated like features.
I do. I know where he is in this world. He's on the
Where?
TV that they're all watching in the first season of Game of Thrones.
Oh my god. He absolutely is.
Uh-huh.
This is so weird. Did we talked about that yet?
No.
That they know that Momoa is a person. That's fucking wild.
That's enough of a reason to not cross this over. They're like, we can't introduce storylines where these characters have watched Game of Thrones, which features an actor we just cast in this movie.
Yeah. Oh my god. I want to hear the Ryan Reynolds, Kevin Hart jokes though that would come out of like them trying to have to tiptoe around the fact that Jason Momoa was in Game of Thrones while they make Game of Thrones references, because I think that will be a lot of fun. They'd be like, it was like that show on TV, the one with all the swords and stuff. And they'd be like, what was it? They'd be like, Highlander? Be like, nah, not that. You know, like something like whatever, right?
It's like what was it, that Ocean's movie where it was all women and Julia
Ocean's
Roberts
8? Mm-hmm.
was playing herself.
Yes, she was dressing up as Julia
Well,
Roberts.
that's in
the
Ocean's
first one.
12. That's in Ocean's 12.
Oh, for the second one? Okay. Yeah, oh yeah, they're like, don't make her do it.
And Bruce Willis is there, and he's just like, Julia. She's like, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. It's game time. We have to play. This ain't no 10-second race, a.k.a. Boy Do We have a podcast for you.
Shit.
Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Come and check out our show. Yeah.
I forget this every time.
Yeah, you and Joe act like you've never listened to the podcast before.
I just don't
Or
go
been
on
on
Twitter.
it for 200 episodes.
I know. All right. This is where we go on Twitter.com. Mr. Tweet presents Twitter.com, a.k.a. the Bird app, if it's loading. It is loading tonight. And we find anybody tweeting about these movies, and hopefully we respond to them, and hopefully they respond, they like, they retweet, they listen to the show. Usually doesn't work. Probably won't work tonight. We're going to find out. I found Josh Frelinger at JFra, who tweeted, when they went to space in F9, everyone asked, how can they finally top this? But the fact that much of the action in FX takes place around the Vatican gives us a hint. The climactic race will take us through hell, purgatory, and paradise, as described in Dante's Inferno. And I said, this seems like a slam dunk. Why name Momoa's character Dante if you're not going to do this? Boy, do we have a podcast for you. It got a like from someone named Claire. Does not count. Swing and a miss.
Okay.
Joe, you found History is Cool at Known Good Geek, who has a 3-tweet thread about being a fan of Fast and Furious franchise, even without 2 big family members absent. And then the one we responded to was, Curious why they haven't proposed a 20 years later TV show with all their children doing similar things, but back in a single city underground street racing antics like the OG, to start a new set of cast and found family element to continue the story for a new audience. And we said we would love for them to restart the franchise of Baby Brian. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. And Joe, no points.
Yeah, that tracks.
Montez, you found Stefan Urkel at Office of Steve. The actors are getting so old in the franchise, the next movie will be them stuck in a grocery store parking lot. Montez, you said, as long as Brian keeps his minivan, we're in. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Montez, you are still not on. Oh, you had 12 points, but you're once again not on the board for this one. I forgot you got points, but you swing and miss. 0 for 3.
It tracks.
I found one. Do either of you have one? Have you sent it to me yet, or do you want me to read mine?
You go first.
Okay. So mine is from a crazy long thread, which I love because in the middle of the thread, there's a 6-month time gap. So I found Puss in Booty Shorts at Sean D. Hay. And the first tweet that they sent out was in August of 2019, right around when Hobbs and Shaw came out. They said, I was wrong, Hobbs and Shaw, not a superhero movie. It's a fucking G.I. Joe movie. I love this so much. Hasbro licensed these damn movies to make G.I. Joe or mask vehicles of all these ridiculous custom cars, give them Bond car weapons. That's canon since Fury 7 anyways. There's a few more tweets. The tweet that I found, they said, technically, if they bring in Papa Hobbs and Mama Shaw and bring back Luke Evans, then it would be Hobbs and Hobbs and Hobbs and Shaw and Shaw and Shaw and Shaw, or Shaw and Hobbs and Shaw and Hobbs and Shaw and Hobbs and Shaw, or just Hobbses and Shaws. Okay? Then 6 months later, they respond. I don't know why it took me so long to realize that the precedent's already been set. It'd just be 2 Hobbses, 2 Shaws. And then there's like another 6 tweets after that. Like, it's wonderful. Like, this whole thread is great. I'm going to say this all makes sense. We co-sign. The fact that you came back 6 months later, blah, 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 whatever. I'm just going to find something. It's a delightful thread. I encourage you to read it after I retweet it, but boy, do we have a podcast for Puss in Booty Shorts. Which is also just a great display name.
It's a great name.
Okay, this is from Nope at SAC216. Hobbs and Shaw should get minimum 5 sequels.
Oh, ho, ho.
Montez, what do you want to say to your...
Ugh, I don't know. I don't have anything witty to say here.
Joe, do you want to help her?
Okay. As long as there's some broken iteration of Hobbs and Shaw, as in Hobbs 4, Shaw 5, something along these lines, we approve. Something like that. Yeah, as long as there's some, as long as they follow the standard Fast and Furious naming
conventions.
Naming conventions, yeah.
Shaw. The Hobbs and Shaw.
This is the 4th movie. Hobbs and Shaw is Fast and Furious, right? It would be like the Hobbs and the Shaw. 2 Hobbs,
Why is
2
this?
Shaw.
No. If this is the spinoff, this is Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw, and then it will be like Hobbs.
No, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of like
Shaw.
paralleling this to the main franchise, the name and name is the 4th one.
Oh.
So we need a prequel where it's the Hobbs and the Shaw.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe put that. Where's the prequel?
The Hobbs and the
the
Shaw.
Hobbs
I like
and the
that.
Shaw.
Good job. We got there, guys. Okay, good.
Took us a while.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe, you found one? Did you find one?
Yes. My tweet is from Jody at NevermindJody. They say, so part of me is sad I didn't get into Fast and Furious films back in the day because it would have been really fun to see them in theaters. But if I had, then I probably wouldn't be able to enjoy something as fucking ridiculous as Hobbs and Shaw. Like a bunch of laughing emojis and crying emojis. I would say, Jody, it is never too late to join the family. And we are glad you're on board. Boy, do we have a podcast for you.
Cool.
Real simple and sweet, but I like that, like, you know, I like people like later on discovering Fast and Furious and being like, you know what? These aren't that bad.
Yeah. I tweeted as us earlier this week, and I know you liked Joe, but my only goal for this game now is to get any of us to get one more point before they unplug the wrong thing at Twitter, or they pay the wrong bill, or they
fire the wrong guy live on Twitter, or then rescind the firing of the guy that you slandered for having a disability that you claimed wasn't real on Twitter.
Yep.
Any of these options that are very viable at this point.
Truly viable. All right, we have time for one more game. It's called Dude, What's My Car?
Dude, what's my car? What's your car, dude?
Okay.
So this one, we only have 2 left. This is one of the 2.
Okay.
This is from November of last year. We're almost caught up. Jerry sent us in new car pick. Montez is going to be helping me give clues.
Nice.
Jerry says, am I going to blow your mind with this one?
Okay.
The chassis of the car is from England. The engine from France. The manufacturer is a French company.
Okay.
It's a beautiful machine, Jerry says, that changes year by year. So now this is wildly specific, and I don't know if this is going to be easy for you to get. I don't know if this is going to be hard for you to get. I'm guessing you're going to be able to get this one, though.
Okay.
Because
I have a good guess.
What's your guess?
I think it's I'm going to say the Williams Team F1 car.
It is an F1 car. I don't think
because that's an English chassis, but I don't think they use Renault engine. So it's somebody that uses the Renault engine.
Yeah. The Renault engine, but it's a different. So the engine is a 1.6 liter direct injection V6 turbocharged engine, limited to 15,000 RPM and a mid-mounted rear-wheel drive layout. 1.6 liter turbo rear mid-mounted that reaches over 950 horsepower.
Yeah, they're insane.
There are 2 drivers for this car.
Yeah, no, every team has 2 drivers. Who is it then?
But okay, so here's the thing.
Is this a name you've known? Have you heard of this name?
I don't know.
Before?
I don't really know F1. Like
but I mean like because some of them are like, okay, yeah. Let me think. Who uses the fucking Renault engines? But are all the chassis made in England? No, because the Italian ones are made in Italy for sure. Not.
I don't know what this means, but Jerry says this might give it away. But in the 2022 U.S. Grand Prix, one of the drivers did a version of the Toretto takeoff. Oh.
Well, the U.S. is the Texas one, and what did he? I don't remember who did a Toretto takeoff in the 2022.
So I think the Toretto takeoff, Montez, if you want to click that YouTube link at the bottom there, I think it's like, you know how like when a race starts, Dom like basically wheelies his car, like gets in the back.
Yeah.
I think it's that, but it was like mid-race, like one of these cars, like the front wheel just like flew off the track, and like he was just kind of like.
Is it? No, AlphaTauri uses.
I don't know how to describe this car. Like I don't know. It's blue.
Oh, is it the Alpines?
It is. Do you know the car?
What? Esteban Ocon's car.
It's him and Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, well, Fernando Alonso doesn't drive for Alpine anymore. He just changed.
Well, he did in November.
He did in November. Oh, that's actually a really fun story. Like Fernando Alonso. Okay, go ahead, continue. I forgot the Alpines uses the Renault.
VWT the sponsor?
Yeah, that's like their main. So Alpine used to be. So all these teams have like wacky things, but like Alpine used to be Force India, and there was this Indian guy that owned it. But then he was like a big scammer and like a nut, and so they forced him to sell it. Or no, Renault became Alpine. Sorry, Renault became Alpine. But that was like directly the Renault factory team.
This is the Alpine A522. Joe?
What?
You've already got a like from Jody. You got a point.
Nice. So there we go. We got one. There you go.
Mr. Tweet.
Yeah, we fixed it. Wait, so which team, did Renault become the factory? Like, did they become Alpine and then Force India? I forget. There's like, so what happens is like some of these teams get sold and stuff like that, but they like kind of keep the same team, but it's just kind of like a sponsorship transfer or like an ownership transfer. So there's like all kinds of goofiness. But in F1, there's only a couple manufacturers of engines. So like Ferrari makes engines, but they also supply the Haas team that's like the American team.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so you can be like both a supplier and a team and a constructor.
I'm just proud, once again, the color of the car helped.
It did. It did really help. I forgot that Alpine uses Renault engines, though. But that's cool. That's really, really
and I
cool.
also want to shout out Montez for giving so much help on that. I don't even know. I just read the email. Like, there's nothing to. It's hard. It's like it's an F1 car. It's like, okay, they all kind of look the same, right?
I am here for moral support.
Thank you, Montez.
By the way,
we did it.
Joey, check out the new livery of the Alpines this year. They're like neon pink.
Ooh, wait, hold on.
Rachel really likes them. She's been commenting like
that is cool.
Yeah, all last weekend. Like, they're very easy to see on the track too.
They look like the baseball bats on Mother's Day, and then never again, because people don't care about women other than the one day of the year.
Oh God!
Actually, Montez, happy International Women's Day.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, did you see like more NHL teams were canceling their Pride jerseys for warm-ups?
Sweet, very cool.
Because like, you know, that's way too aggressive for everyone that you wear a jersey for 15 minutes in warm-ups and then auction them off for charity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, God forbid you might be supportive of people then.
Talking about being supportive of people, we're supportive of Montez, who's supportive of us. Montez, thank you so much for joining us once again. We got one more movie, and then we're done with the lap. I mean, not really done with the lap, but like you're gonna go back to the tune-up,
done with you.
Montez, we're almost done. We're almost through these movies, and then in a couple months you'll be back for Fast X. But like, this initial ride, this initial installment, I keep like qualifying what I'm saying because you're never leaving.
No, I'm never leaving.
You're almost done with this every 3-week cycle. Are you excited to see what are you hoping for in F9? What are you worried about? What are you excited about?
I'm worried that I'm gonna be disappointed in it like I was this movie.
Okay.
I feel like I was on an upward trend there. This movie kind of left a weird taste in my mouth just because, like I said, if this was a standalone movie that had nothing to do with the franchise, I would like it so much more. Not that it's a bad movie, it's a fun movie. But I think if I'm trying to quantify it in the sense that it is part of the franchise, I'm having a really hard time.
Okay, fair enough.
But it's still a fun movie, and I still liked it. Like, I still loved the fact that it was funny. I mean, it was a good movie, but I didn't like it as part of the franchise.
Well, I will say that F9 feels much more part of the franchise in just about every way, so at least you have that to look forward to.
Perfect.
Between now and then, though, Joe, we have a bonus episode. Brian, Late Night Slumber Party Rodriguez, his sponsor pick for this lap behind the paywall is 1983's Scarface. So get ready for 3 hours of watching that on Sunday, because we're going to watch that or talk about that on Monday, and it'll be out early next week for the patrons at toofast2forever.com. Our main feed episode next week is Find Me Guilty, which I think might be the one Vin Diesel movie that doesn't feel like a Vin Diesel movie. Well, I guess Boiler Room didn't really feel like it. Boiler Room was actually, the more Vin movies we watch, I'm like, hey, Boiler Room is actually pretty good.
Right? I like Boiler Room
love
a lot,
but like,
man. I really like that movie.
It's different, right? Like he's doing something different in it.
Yeah, he is. He's playing a completely different character than we normally see.
Yep. And then we got Another Life in the Fast Lane. I realized, Joe, that Lance Barnaby is Too Fast's version of Food All Over the Place. Like, it's a line that no one probably heard or thought about. It's a thing on the screen that no one ever saw or thought about, but it is part of our lexicon now.
It's done. I'm using Lance Barnaby as my fake name for everything.
Like when you check in hotels?
Yeah. Well, like ones that I don't want other people to know about, yeah.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, sit on that one, guys.
Well, you know how like when like rock stars or whatever, like
yes,
celebrities check in hotels, like, it's just, I'm Lance Barnaby. It's like, how do you spell that? It's like, I don't know.
Baranabe.
I will also say you were, we'll talk about this maybe, who knows, but like you were asking if we could get, like I put the 4K disc in, and you can read that text clear as day. So it is... we got Barnaby right. It's Barnebe, Barnaby. So Barnaby. So very, very exciting.
Did you explain this to Montez, or did you hear this,
no.
Montez?
Montez, you need to hear. I know that you don't listen. You're a mom of two, and you have a new job and everything. But like, listen to the last like 20 or 25 minutes of this week's episode that just came out.
Okay.
Joe found a thing in the Too Fast minute that we spent so much time.
And I don't think anybody has ever seen in this movie before.
Wonderful. A couple people, I think, either emailed in or commented, which we'll get to in the next Life in the Fast Lane, but like sort of like thoughts about that. But
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Good. I hope everybody was as hype as we were, because, okay. Damn, now I'm excited to hear what they say. I was very proud of myself, Montez. I found something really, really cool.
Well, I know what I'm doing tomorrow then.
Yeah.
25 minutes.
You can listen to all 100 episodes you're probably behind,
bang.
but just listen to the last 20 minutes of this.
Yeah, bing bang. Boom. You'll be good.
Thank you once again. Anything you want to let people know about that you're doing or anything like that? Or you want to stay sort of mysterious once again?
I'm going to continue to be as mysterious as I can be.
Very, very cool. Well, for all things Too Fast, Too Forever, go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/TooFastTooForever, or at TooFastTooForever on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Email us, family@cageclub.me. Check out our Patreon page at TooFastTooForever.com and our store over on TeePublic. And come back early next week for Scarface if you're a Patreon member, if you're a patron, or regular time next week for Find Me Guilty. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too.
And that was Jessica Collins, aka Montez. And we will tell you all about it
when we see you